My name is Vikki Carpenter, and this morning I'm going to show you how to unpack silk, which is what Rosalie Nielsen is asking you to do and setting up the Marudai for a braiding session. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is my Marudai. As you can see, I have a shower cap on it, very inexpensive, but this is to protect the mirror because you want to protect your mirror. You want it to be smooth, you want it to be unblemished. So this is just a precaution to keep that mirror nice and smooth, because when you're working with silk, it is such a fine fiber that if you have any nicks or any scratches, that will catch the silk fibers. This is a pack of 2 ropes, and I will show you the ropes in one moment. And this pack is, I purchased at Kumihimo Resource, and they send these packages that are all cut and ready to go. But you can also buy silk on cones. Braider's Hand also has silk for sale. This is metallic silk, and you can see it has a little bit of a shimmer to it. And because it is metallic, it's a little bit stiffer. So it's a little easier to work with than silk fiber. There's another type of silk called imposter, and imposter is synthetic silk. So this silk can be expensive. This pack was $15, so you want to make sure that you take care of your silk, you use it, and you just take it out gently. It'll fall on its own. And as you can see, when they package it, they tie up the ends, which is great because it keeps it from unraveling. So you just gently shake it out. And I didn't want to shake this out beforehand because I want you to get a real feel of what this will look like. Okay, so we can see that we have 2 ropes here of silk. This is what came in the pack. And I'm going to take this first rope and I'm just going to put it around my neck just to keep it out of the way and untangled while I work with the second rope. On this rope, we can see that we have 4 elements, as Rosalie calls them. She calls them elements. I've heard other people refer to them as bundles. So each rope will consist of 4 bundles. And as you can see, they separate on their own. Now you will especially see this in this metallic silk, but in real silk, it actually naturally separates also. So you just gently separate these 4 elements, because you want to put an element on each tama. These are the tamas I'm using today, and these are 70-gram weights. So we're going to this will be a very thin braid. If you want a thicker braid, you would put 2 elements on each tama. So I'm gently just separating, and you don't have to pull too much. Okay, right. Okay, so as you can see, I have shaken out my 4 bundles or elements, and that's what I want it to look like. I want it, and this is a time consuming, you need to have the time to just gradually work on this, and you do not have to do anything to the element fibers. they should just lie in place. Now, if you're using non-metallic silk, it's a little bit trickier because the fibers are not as thick, so I'm going to put that there. I've got that one done. Go ahead. Here's my second rope. And again, the rope is divided into 4 elements or 4 bundles. And I will shake that out. All right, I'm going to go ahead now and show you how you would set this up. Rosalie Nielsen has you using the total length of the silk.
There we go. So
Cotton
start with
thread. And I'm just going to take, what is this, maybe 7 or 8 inches. And tie the 2 ends together in an overhand knot. And we're going to use this loop to make a lark's head on your silk, which is what, as you can see, I just have a overhand knot there. I'm going to put that to the side here. And the great thing about Kumihimo Resource is they very gently put a little knot at the end of your silk, so all you have to do is pull and it pulls right out. So it's ready for you to go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put these 2 ends together, these 2 ropes. Remember, each rope has 4 elements, 4 bundles. Put the ends together. And if you want to make a tassel at the end of your braid, you can leave a little bit of fiber at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and just make an overhand knot with the 2 ropes. Try that again. Gently slip that through. So here's my overhand knot. Now I'm going to take this cotton thread that I made the loop out of, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to place it just before the knot. Let me see, let me get, okay, and I just lay this loop underneath the silk. Just lie it underneath the silk, and then I'm going to put one end through the other end and pull gently. This is a lark's head. Here's my lark's head. It's connected to my loop. Now I'm going to use this cotton loop also for my chopstick and also for my S-hook. So this is pretty long. This is very long. So I can easily fix that by just creating an overhand knot and make it a little bit closer to where my silk is. So I say I probably have about an inch and a half, 2 inches. So here's my knot right here. This makes it a little bit easier. You know, this is where your weight is going to hang, so you don't want the weight swinging in the wind. So now I'm going to place this, my chopstick, And you can use any kind of chopstick. This just happens to be a little bit of a decorative chopstick, but any kind of chopsticks that you can purchase anywhere. Okay, so here's my chopstick. I'm going to stick it into this section of the loop. Okay, then I'm going to take my chopstick, and the chopstick is an anchor, so it's going underneath the Marudai. So I'm going to place it underneath my Marudai and pull the silk through. And your chopstick is what holds.
I'll just get this under here.
Okay, so you can see that the chopstick is below, and I have it precariously sitting there. I'm going to take this blue tape, this painter's tape, just cut 2 pieces of tape, and I am going to tape the chopstick to the bottom of the Marudai. Now, expert braiders have told me that you don't need to do this step, but I feel very confident now that my chopstick is secure and that my silk packages aren't going to be flying off. Okay, so I'm at the end of my element, my bundle, and I have a little slip knot there. So I'm just going to pull it through to loosen it, or to get my elements separated. You can see I have my element here. I'm going to gently pull through the element just to make sure that all my silk is lying correctly. This is the tama. This tama is 70 grams. To put the fiber on the tama, I make a loop, and then I pull the outside, my left side, into my loop, and this is what's going to hold my fiber onto my tama. So let me do that again. That pulls out very easily. I'm still making sure that my silk is nice and smooth. So I make a loop. Here's my loop. I take my silk from my left side and I bring it through. And I gently pull. And I can, with this type of knot on it, and silk is very slippery, so you know it will pull out if you're not careful. So now I have this loop. I'm going to place it over the tama, tighten it, and you know I don't want to leave too much of my silk out, but at the same time I want it to be secure. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to hold it with my other hand, and I'm going to wind with my right hand. I'm winding the silk onto the tama. I'm just going to make sure that, you know, my silk is going on smoothly. I'm not going to worry about those little fibers sticking out there. That's the end. That's the end of my bundle, my element. I'm just going to continue to wind. I get about here. I'm going to bring my tama this way and wind. So now, to secure the silk onto the tama, I take my hand, my 4 fingers, I place it over the braid, turn till I've created, you can see I've created a little loop there. And I'm going to take my tama and place it under where my fingers are. And as you can see, that didn't work, so it's, you know, you just do it. It's a practicing. Tama goes under, and then this loop goes over the tama. So this is what you've created here. And you don't, this is probably a good length. You don't want your tama sitting way up on the mirror. You want it, oh, what does that look like, about 3 inches below, because you're going to be moving those with your hands. So then I'm going to continue going to my next element, pull it gently through. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and smooth out my fiber, make sure all my pieces, and you can see it's a little bit of a
Just keep going.
little bit of a backup right here. So I'm just gonna, oops, gently. And it might help when you're doing this to stand up and bring your braid out, your fiber out. As you can see here that I have a, you want your fibers to be all smooth and going together, because if they're not, it will come out in the braid. And once it comes out in the braid, there's nothing you can do to fix it. You can't cut it because it would interfere with the structure of the braid. So, you know, you just gently and you know, it's, your braid will braid very easily, very quickly. So it's worth the time in making sure that you've got it correctly set up. The setup when you're using silk is often more time consuming than the actual braid itself. Okay, so again, I'm going to go through this and make sure that it's very smooth. My fibers are all running the same way. I don't have any kinks. There's one right here, so I'm going to pull it through gently. And we do live in a dry climate, so if your hands are at all rough, you need to make sure that you use lotion beforehand. So again, I'm going to cross my two ends and bring my left over, go inside and pull. There's my tama, and place it on my Marudai. Put my loop over the tama, gently pull. Hold my knot in place. If I don't hold my knot in place, it will pull out because this is silk and it's slippery. So now I'm going to wrap making sure that it wraps smoothly. Put it on. Taking your time to make sure it's smooth. When I get to this, about this place, just going to wind it up. And this is where I create my loop to hold it, the silk onto the tama. So I place my hand over, keep my tama stationary, put my hand over, then my tama goes underneath the loop so that that loop is sitting on top of the tama, and I pull down. Well, I don't pull down, I just gently let it go down in. So, again, here I'm working with the next element, winding it on to the tama. And this element was much smoother than the last one, so the process was a little bit easier. Here I am about this length from the Marudai. Put my 4 fingers over the top of the fiber, turn. Then I'm going to take my tama and push towards my fingers, towards my palm of my fingers and through the loop, so that the loop is now sitting on top of the tama. And I just allow that to gently go down. So, the nice thing about the Marudai, it's very portable, so I can turn it when I need more space. So, I've now wound up 1 rope. The 1 rope has 4 elements, and I'm ready to start on the other 4. Most braids begin with 8 tamas, but tamas can go up as far as 32 tamas, 64 tamas. So I have 16, well, I actually have a set of 16 tamas, and I have another set of another 16. So I could do a 32 fiber braid. So here again, I've got my loop, pull, just, you know, everything is done with a gentle touch. Again, hold the end of my silk down because it will pull right out if you are not holding it. Wind it up. Take the time to make sure that your element is smooth. There are no kinks in it. Wind it, and again place my hand over the top, turn, my tama is up here, here's on the left, push my tama across my palm to the fingers so that the fiber is on top, and then gently. Right now I'm not going to worry too much about the length of my tamas because, you know, that will come when I've got them all set up. Again, I want to emphasize the security of this chopstick. I know my chopstick is taped under there. That's a temporary hold, but it keeps the tamas from flipping. Or they, you know, the braid could just flip right out. So you want to make sure that you just go ahead and use that tape until you feel secure enough that you can do it without it. I just think it's worth, you know, 2 little pieces of tape to do what you need to do. So we've got our loop here. We put it on our tama. Again, hold the silk. I've got holding the silk in place with my thumb as I wind. And I'm going to wind the silk. A lot of this is just practice. If you want to just practice on the loops that you need to secure the tama, you could practice with rat tail or cotton. Much cheaper. Put your hand over the top of the fiber, turn. Again, my tama's here on my left, through my palm, to my fingers. The fiber is now on top. Gently just. All right, so I'm rolling my 8th tama, and again, I put my hand, turn, tama goes under the fiber, and here's my cord. Now, if I want to lengthen this, all I have to do is just gently, and you can see this loop right here, it's holding it on. Gently just pull through, and it will lengthen. Now, if you want to shorten it, you have to take it off and rewind it. So now I've got my 8 tamas. I'm not going to worry too much about my placement, but I can just move my tamas around a little bit here, just to get them more equitably placed. Now, when you're working with the Marudai, you have a north, south, a west, and an east side. So you're always referring to those 4. 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So I'm now going to take my S-hook. This is a hook that you can buy at any hardware store, and I recommend that you get the largest one you can find. And I am going to place my S-hook in the loop right next up against my chopstick. These are my weights. Very simple. These are washers, and they're on a curtain ring. I have 8 washers. And this is what I'm going to use. When you are working on the Marudai, you always use weights. Depending on the size and the size of the fiber and the complexity of the braid, sometimes I have actually 3 of these, and I will use up to 3 depending on the type of braid I'm braiding. But this is a very thin braid, so I'm just going to, I take my weights. This is where my S-hook rests again. And I place this on my S-hook. Now my fiber is connected to the weights. And now I can place my fiber, and I'm going to place 2 here, north, south, east, west. And that's how I will start the majority of my braids. Now, if you have more braids, then more complex braids, then your fiber is going to go between the north, south, east, west area. So now that I have my weights secure, now I can take my chopstick off. And just pull it through. You never leave your braid on the Marudai without either weights or chopstick. So when I finish, let's say I only want to do part of my braid today, I take my chopstick and I place it up over my knot and through. I've got my fiber all attached to my tamas, and it's attached here at the weight. If I decide I don't want to finish my braid today, I want to continue it a different day or place it, I go below and over the center of the braid, which is called the point of braiding. That secures all of this to the Marudai. Then I can take my weight off. Only then do I take my weight off. I always secure it just like you would if you were working on a disc. You always want to, well, you can kind of secure it, but you know, you want to secure your fiber before you do anything. So again, I put my weight back on and gently just pull my chopstick out. My fibers are secure with the weights, but if I need to leave my braid at any time, I take my chopstick, I place it up through the mirror, through the hole, and up and over the point of braiding. Where the fiber comes together is called the point of braiding. And this secures my braid to the Marudai. Now I don't have any reason to fear that it will flop out. Now I can gently release my weights. Okay, now if you are not using, you're using your total fiber in your packet, but you want to just, let's say, use the one color. You're going to use it all one color. You find the middle of your braid, and then you're going to use this knitting needle. This is very tiny. The knitting needle stays on the braid until the braid is completed. You do not take it out. And you secure it to the knitting needle with waxed thread, or you can use waxed dental floss. You can find waxed thread at Joann's or some type of sewing place, maybe Michael's, but you know, if you don't want to do that, everybody has dental floss. You can use your dental floss. And what I've done here is I've tied the dental floss around. I put the center over the little knitting needle, and then I tightly, and it does, you know, you might have to do it several times to get it tight, but the reason you're using dental floss is because it keeps the fiber from sliding through. If you try to use regular beading thread or sewing thread, your fibers will shift. So, and I put this on here so that when I finish my braid, this is what my end is going to look like. And then I take out my knitting needle, and I have a little nubbin, and that nubbin is just placed right into the end cap. So it just makes it nice and neat. Otherwise, when you're using silk, you never want to cut the ends like you would on a disc, right? You don't want a knot there. If I didn't use this, I would just find the end, take a piece of dental floss, and tie a knot there at that end. You can do that also. You don't need to have this, but this kind of just gives it a nice little finished look at the end, which you're not going to see anyway because you're going to put your end cap there. And then I tie a knot here, and this serves the same purpose as my S-hook. Now I'm still going to use a chopstick. This is just in addition to the chopstick. This does not take the place of the chopstick because it's too small and it's too short in length. So this is just to create that, but I put a little knot at the end, so this is where my S-hook goes. You would take your S-hook, you would take your chopstick through there, tape it under the Marudai just like we did. So this is what it'll look like. And then when you're ready to add the weight, you put your S-hook right here. And of course this will be upside down, so, right. But it's just a more finished way to begin your braid. because again, we're just using 2 ropes and 8 elements. If you want it to be thicker, you would use 2 elements per tama. That'll give you a thicker braid. So I'm going to go ahead now and do a edo-yatsu. The edo-yatsu is the braid that Rosalie has done so much work on. Has a wonderful book about the different variety of braids that you can do with the edo-yatsu. The thing I like about the edo-yatsu, it's a jumping braid. That's how I refer to it. You take your 2 and when you lift your tamas, you lift them with your fingers. You don't lift the tama itself. You're putting your finger inside where the braid is. And I'm going to jump. So then now I have 3 on my east-west side. I take the middle and I jump. Again, north, south, east, west. Now I take the opposite. So I'm going clockwise and then counterclockwise. So I jump, let it go, jump, reposition. Okay, now you can see that not all my tamas are the same length. If I need to let it out a little bit, I can let it out just gently. Okay, again, jump, jump, reposition, jump over, reposition. As you can see, when you're working with a Marudai, you're using 2 hands at the same time. So your braid is going to go twice the speed as what you would do on a disc. That's the beauty of a Marudai. On a Marudai, the focus is more the braid. On a disc, I would say the focus is more the beads. It's a good idea. Okay, it's a good idea when you first begin a new braid. This section right here is called the point of braiding. Take your phone and take a picture of that. So if you do get lost, you can make sure that your fibers are lined up correctly. As you can see, I always start with the fiber that's underneath. So these 2 fibers are what I'm going to begin this cycle with. I jump, then I go to the other side. See, these are where my fibers are, they're underneath. And again, I look at my point of braiding. Edo-yatsu is a hollow braid. So you can see that hollow piece in the middle there.
In a few minutes, how much braid you've gotten.
Okay, you always want to check your braid as you're working, because you can easily, through daydreaming or phone call, get lost. So here's my braid. It's coming underneath, and you can see that it's a very narrow braid. It's not very thick because I'm just using a small amount of fiber. So I check my, and if I want to stop, again, if I need to stop my braiding, I stick my chopstick in there, remove my weights, and I could very gently, either get down or to check my braid. You can see that there's a pattern, and this is a variegated silk pack. So you would see probably even more of a pattern, especially if you're using 2 colors. And you can see if you are on the right track. If you got confused and are not on the right track, you need to back braid. And back braid is just something that comes with experience, but you really start to understand the braid, the structure of the braid, when you back braid. You never take it off and start over again. Don't start over again. So when you back braid, so here I'm going to back braid. I need to put my two ends, take this and spread them out a little bit. And I'm going to back braid. And this is why it's so important to take that picture, so that you know what the center of your braiding should look like. So now I'm back. If my fibers get crossed, or at any time I scooched instead of jumped, I can easily see by looking at that picture. That has saved me many times. Take the time to take that picture of your point of braiding, so that you know what it should look like. So again, and reset. Reset. And again, if you need to let out your fiber, just gently let it out at that time. And again, you are not picking up your tama, you're picking up the fiber. So you can see my tama is not in my hands, it's the fiber. So I need to take the time when I'm getting to a point where my tamas are too close, just gently pull. You can even pull up a little bit so you have a little bit of give there, and that'll let it come out gently. If for some reason it gets entangled in there so that you cannot pull, you need to rewind the tama. You have to rewind it. You just have to stop and do it, because it's pulling on it and trying to force it to come down is only going to make matters worse. So again, reset. All right, so now I hope that at least you're set up and you're ready to learn a new braid. There are hundreds and hundreds of braids, so this is a very creative and very much of a learning process. So have fun.